Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about Visit to the Unknown from Tensei Shitara Slime Talk, and so without any ado let's begin. Visit to the Unknown, 05 Veldora's Excuse Part 1. What are you doing, Master? Ramiris asked Veldora, who was cooking okonomiyaki with a big grin. She had been the first to return. As Veldora had gone against their agreement after being left alone for just a short while, it could not be helped that there was a sharpness in her voice. However, Veldora did not seem to take notice. He kept pouring more batter over the grill and added shredded cabbage on top. It was a mystery as to where these ingredients were coming from, but he handled them expertly as he mixed them into the batter. And then he said, "Ka ha 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 ha. Ramiris, do you want some too?" "Yes. But, that's not the problem." Ramiris nodded to Veldora's light-hearted response but quickly remembered herself. "I won't be tricked by food." It was with this strong will that she rained down words of reproach over Veldora. "We just talked about this earlier. We are supposed to act with caution." However, Veldora just snickered at her. "Ramiris, calm down. If you're just going to complain about everything, I will just have to keep these spoils of war for myself, won't I?" "What? Look at this. If you put it together like this." While waiting for the batter to cook, Veldora quickly assembled a robot. It was a torso on top of what looked like a tank. A simple machine with two arms. However, the left arm was distinctly shaped like a drill. Huh. That's an interesting combination. It looks so cool. I'm going to copy that. The children watched it with interest and were clearly impressed. This only made Veldora more and more arrogant. Hee. Of course. It should be no surprise that I can create a partner who is both cool and strong," he said with a satisfied nod. And then he glanced at Ramiris and continued. "What do you think, Ramiris? Will you still pretend to be uninterested?" He must have been sure of his victory because he said this with a puffed-out chest. Veldora's words were more than enough to make Ramiris hesitate. Huh? Ramiris's head seemed to spin as she began to wonder what to do. And it was then that a freshly cooked plate of okonomiyaki was put in front of her. It was an exquisite dish that used lots of shrimp and pork. Savory sauce, seaweed, and bonito flakes covered it. The smell alone was enough to make her drool. Ramiris gulped. "This is for you. Eat up." Okay. I will then." That strong will to resist any trickery now disappeared from Ramiris's heart. Veldora thought he had won then, but it did not last for long. "Lord Ramiris. Do not be deceived." Ramiris was looking at the okonomiyaki with sparkling eyes when Beretta's warning reached her ears. Huh? What? She was clearly shaken as she looked around her. She looked at Veldora, then Beretta, and then back at the plate of okonomiyaki. It was obvious that her heart was not sure. Ramiris really did want to side with Veldora, but her brain was telling her that it would not end well. She didn't know what to do. Veldora watched her and smirked. Then he suddenly shouted, "Rocket Puyunk!" And then, right in front of Ramiris's eyes, the newly made robot began to move. Bang! There was a loud sound. And then the part past the elbow of the right arm fired off like a rocket. The fist slammed into the wall. Veldora shouted again. And now the death blow. Drill break. The robot heard this and started to move again. The caterpillar groaned and then the string attached to the right arm began to pull the body in. Once the right arm was back in its socket, the left arm rotated like a drill at a tremendous speed and slammed into the wall. There was a deafening sound. And then, destruction. Wow! The children were greatly excited by this. And so was Ramiris. She stood up while still gripping her chopsticks and then shouted excitedly. "Amazing! That was amazing, Master. Ka ha 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 ha. Ka ha 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 ha. Of course, it is. Delicious okonomiyaki. Children to play with. A cool robot. New entertainment. Everything was here." And so it went without saying, that Ramiris gave in. Ramiris began to happily eat the okonomiyaki. Beretta sighed with exasperation. However, he had not given up yet. Ramiris was simple, so he had fully expected her to be tricked by Veldora. What was important, was when it came to determining who was responsible, and that would happen for sure, was how to ensure that Ramiris would not get in trouble. Because Ramiris's mistakes equals him being rebuked. Or so Beretta thought. You were there, and yet you could not stop them. Beretta could imagine Ramiro's face as he asked this. "You ask too much of me, was how he really felt, but he would never say it out loud. Beretta took things very seriously. And so he wondered what it was that they needed. For instance, what he considered the ideal, was the relationship between Milim and Frey. As self-centered and forceful as Milim was, she somehow always obeyed what Frey said. Veldora also could not go against his sisters. If it was an order from Veltsard or Velgrund, Veldora would have no choice but to quietly listen. In the world, everyone had someone they were no match for. It wasn't necessarily about combat ability, but there was a special relationship that determined who was above who. Perhaps if I was trusted by Lord Ramiris more. Beretta thought. Beretta believed that Ramiris would listen to him more if she trusted him. But Beretta was mistaken. When it came to Milim and Frey, she also got quite the headache. It was the same with Veldora and his sisters. If Veldora really did listen to them obediently, then they would not have had such a hard time with him. While Veldora did not do much mischief these days, he had been responsible for much in the past. As for trust, it wasn't something you gained overnight, and Beretta had gained more than enough of Ramiris's trust over the last few decades. It just so happened that she had been susceptible to Veldora's tricks on this occasion. Had it only been Beretta and Ramiris here, Beretta would not have had as hard a time. But Veldora was here too. And that was the biggest reason for Beretta's misfortune. Beretta watched as Ramiris hungrily stuffed the okonomiyaki into her mouth. He sighed once again. Then he switched gears and talked to her. Lord Ramiris. Please calm down and listen to me. If you continue with this, you will become an accomplice to Veldora's crimes. Huh. Ramiris froze in surprise. Beretta tried to continue on with his warning, but... He. Ramiris, don't you worry. You already are an accomplice. What? You can't make any excuses now that you have taken a bite of the okonomiyaki. We must now walk on the same bloody road. Veldora said with a laugh. Lord Veldora, this is no time to laugh. Please stop involving Lord Ramiris in such things. Ha. Don't worry, Beretta. I am not stupid. I have this all thought out. I wished you wouldn't think of so many things, thought Beretta. He was sure that whatever it was that Veldora was thinking, it would not be good. Still, Veldora did not listen. He just laughed, ha, and continued to cook his okonomiyaki and trade them in for parts that the children had brought. Hey, you. What are you doing? Just then, Sharma, who had finally caught up with Ramiris and Beretta, looked at Veldora and shouted. Next to her, Rindo stood with a shocked expression as he looked at the grill. Hey, said Zaza as he sighed. Beretta knew all too well what they were feeling, but he did not know what to do. However, Veldora did not look like he cared at all. Oh. Do you want some too? I intend to stay here for a while, so there is no need to act so reservedly. He said with a blinding smile. Now wait a minute. What is this you are giving the children? Oh, how outrageous. It was one thing for us to have to do it, but to force children to have to suffer as well. Sharma and the others were furious. However, just like he had been with Beretta a moment ago, Veldora just laughed without a hint of remorse. I don't see any problem. From what I hear, this city has natural ingredients. No, that is only a rumor. We do not know about what happens inside of the city. However, we have heard stories when we were children. But, well, unlike the food production plants outside of the city, the security seems to be very tight there. It would not be too surprising if they had real ingredients that were not synthetic. Veldora nodded. This enemy that the resistance fought, the mechanized empire of Omsbine, he had heard much of them during their last conversation. But Veldora did not think of such difficult matters such as, which of the two sides was in the right. He just heard the fact of it and accepted it. Enemies should be crushed, but this empire wasn't exactly an enemy to Veldora. But they weren't allies either. Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more content.